Well, mainstream media is dying, and they are the last to know. This was shared by Washington Post reporter Paul Farhip. Let's look at the ComScore numbers that he shares, and then how he spins it as, this is fine. Okay, so these are his edits here. He circled the year-over-year change. Now, this is how many people are looking at these various websites for news, either on mobile or total digital, desktop and mobile or any other way. And then look at the change. Look at how all of them are just precipitously down from last year, the same time last year. Now, maybe my interpretation is at this same time last year, there still were people maybe buying the COVID narrative a little bit more. And this year, the COVID narrative has had a bad year. People don't buy that. Maybe I would say Hunter Biden is one. The war in Ukraine, we're going to talk about why, but look at how bad, for instance, New York Times down 38% from last year. The Atlantic down 8%. Washington Post down 10%, 15% for Forbes. Pretty much everybody is bleeding viewers in a single year. Now, this is just for online news. We already know broadcast viewers are crappy. Physical media readers down 2%. Yeah.
Really quick, do you think that could be because of the subscription model? Like if it was free, do you think that would be affected that much? Or
that's something that we're going to talk about. That's a good question, because here is where Farhip, this reporter, responds to that, saying, look at the response on the bottom where someone says, well, what happened to the LA Times? And he says, steeper paywall, perhaps, not sure. And the LA Times does have a paywall, so perhaps that's it. But I love how he responds to this question where this guy or girl, Keck magician, says, good, go out of business. Nobody likes or needs you. And he says, it appears tens of millions of people actually do. Incorrect. These are measures of unique visitors over the course of a month. So you visit the same site 12 times a month, it still counts as one unique visitor. So people love us. There's still millions. This shows an amazing lack of introspection, don't you think?
And that's the LA Times saying that.
No, this is a reporter from the Washington Post.
Oh, the Washington Post. Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
If we were, because Clayton and I, we look at our numbers and we think, okay, that story maybe didn't engage. Can we, think about, how we tell a different story? How do we best serve our audience? Like we think about how we tell our stories and present our news in a way, like we're not sitting here blaming other things. Like, oh, ratings are up when there's a war and down when there's not.
Here's what we do. Like if, we do a story on Syria. I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have done a better job with this part of it. Or I wish I would have articulated this better.
Right.
Like I'm not looking, after the show and I do a postmortem and I think about how we could have done something better, how we could have brought out a different piece of information for you, right? I don't sit there and think,
oh, it's external factors. It's not me.
Yeah,
they still love me. That is a way to cling to your delusion of importance.
Yeah, how can we spin this to push a narrative?
Yeah.
What, Philip?
Yeah, I was gonna say, and don't forget the ever popular. It's your fault as the audience. You just don't. You're not media literate anymore, so it's your guys' fault that you're not consuming our content. How dare you?
It's CNN's audience.
Gen Z.
It's CNN's audience that they've fled and don't watch them anymore.
Right.
They're apparently they're just too stupid now.
Yeah.
They should be watching CNN because they're just too stupid.
What were you saying, David? Did you finish that thought?
I just said we're something about pushing an agenda. I don't even remember exactly how I said it, but we're not sitting there thinking, what agenda can we push? How can we spin this?
No, but there are times when, like Clayton brings up Syria or certain stories that I think maybe are smaller on the international scale. And I wonder, why didn't that one, why weren't people more engaged with that one? Did I not do it justice by telling this story because it's important?
That's the thing that frustrates me. Let's say we cover a story like Somalia, right? So we have a large American audience, maybe that audience is just not, they see it pop up in the YouTube algorithm or something like that, and they see the title and they're like, oh, Somalia, I'm just not going to watch that. And it breaks my heart because that's an incredibly important story, right? Or Yemen, or God knows, Congo, or how many stories do we Haiti. right? Here's a story that I'm very passionate about. I think it's incredibly important that the United States is meddling in Haiti. And the mainstream media was totally ignoring the story. And one of our correspondents, Dan Cohen, doing an amazing job covering Haiti. And, you know, it's like, okay, it would upset me if more eyeballs didn't get to see the story, right? Like, how can we bring more awareness to this? How could we have done it better, and all of that? So,
but that's not an agenda. It's just we care about these pieces. We put a lot of work into them, and then we really want them to get in front of an audience so that you can respond appropriately to things that you have a vote on. And so, I wouldn't call that an agenda. But again, we don't lack humility about this. So we're willing to see what should we be doing different. It seems like the mainstream media absolutely is not. Journalist Michael Schellenberger put together this quick list of why he thinks people have lost trust in the media. Here is what he calls key disinformation campaigns that just, you know, the media ran with, and we know that the data shows something different. And now we don't trust them. So you can read this, you know, Trump is a Russian asset. COVID lab leak is debunked as a conspiracy theory. Hunter Biden laptop, of course, vaccines, you know, ignoring the Twitter files, all of that stuff. I can add to this. I mean, can you add to more reasons why you think, you know, Ukraine is an ethical democracy and Zelensky is a great guy? Lack of curiosity about January 6th prosecutions and various footage that may not support their narrative. Go ahead.
Their hosts have condescending personalities, I think, in a lot of ways.
Oh, I'm going to show you something about that. Yeah.
They talk down to their audience, right? I mean, I think at the end of the day, they're pushing an agenda, right? They're pushing an agenda down people's throats.
Yes. In fact, one Twitter user put this together recently, showing the media absolutely condescending anyone who didn't take the vaccine. And you're right. You guys nailed it. They talk down their nose. They take a moral, you know, superiority. It's a bit long, so we'll watch a few minutes because your response is just going to be so outraged. Take a look.
When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other.
You are the unvaccinated. You are the problem. It is the unvaccinated who are the problem, period, end of story.
The only people that you can blame, this isn't shaming, this is the truth. Maybe they should be shamed, but the unvaccinated.
It's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks.
Anyone you came into contact with will blame you, as will the rest of us who have done the right thing by getting vaccinated.
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
I think it's time to get our moral house in order, Anderson. It's the unvaccinated who are the threat.
All of us vaccinated folks are going to start wearing masks to protect the unvaccinated folks. It's called a Christian value.
You're basically punishing the vaccinated for the sins of the unvaccinated.
People are not behaving honorably. The unvaccinated are basically saying, well, it's open season for me. I can do whatever I want as well.
The unvaccinated are basically beating their breasts and running around the country saying, we don't care, we're living free and so forth.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
The unvaccinated, a group that includes children and people acting like children. And the rest of us are starting to get pissed off.
The vaccinated feel the unvaccinated are making me upset or angry.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
Well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom.
The other day, Howard Stern weighed in with a much different approach. Take a look.
When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? Their freedom.
But you're treading on our freedom and you're making other people sick, and really you're killing other people.
You get the idea. This goes on for 3 minutes. You can seek it out online. All of this, and no one ever apologized. They could just apologize and say, look, we didn't know. We bought the biopharmaceutical lines that
they sponsor every one of our segments.
Right.
This Anderson Cooper segment was brought to you by Pfizer. So can you imagine the contrition if they actually came out and they said, Anderson Cooper 360 is a show sponsored by Pfizer. We just didn't do our homework as journalists, and we were taking money from them.
We chose not to go through their clinical trials, not to ask critical questions about their percentage of infection rate. We just chose not to. And we believed that anyone who was choosing to do that was a conspiracy theorist. And so we thought that those people were unethical and should be punished. And we thought that we were the only ethical people. And we owe you an apology for that. Now, for a long time during the pandemic, I, bought into a lot of the, like, you should wear a mask. You should not criticize people for wearing masks. I definitely have apologized for how I felt about that, since it's not that hard. Say you're sorry for things that you bought into, later researched, and realized that you were misinformed. Russiagate, January 6th, just say sorry and maybe you'll get some viewers back. It's not hard. Go ahead, David.
But I don't think they can do that, because they have to sit down and they have to have discussions like, okay, we're going to run this story. How will this not piss off our sponsors? What can we and can not say during this segment in order to keep this sponsor? So everything that they do has to go through that lens first. So that means like they couldn't come out and apologize, because if they piss off Pfizer, then how much money do they lose? I just don't know how they get around that.
Yeah. So no wonder we all hate them collectively. I still tune into mainstream media from time to time to just see what's going on there. And I just find myself screaming, because I'm like, you didn't do your homework before you took that segment to air. Just do your homework. Now, here is indicative of how we all hate them collectively. This is a shared value right now, is hating the mainstream media. Here's a Gallup poll, also shared by Michael Schellenberger, showing how much people trust the mainstream media. Now, the green line says, how much do you trust mass media? The green line is people who trust a lot. The blue solid line, not very much. And the dotted line, none at all. So look at the trusters. The green line is a precipitous drop since the late 70s. The blue line, they don't trust, keep going up. And the none at all is absolutely skyrocketing up to 40%. Although I would imagine that's a conservative number. Now, interestingly enough, here was Elon Musk's response to Michael Schellenberger's report about that. He's like, that's interesting because the mainstream media, is shrinking, but X has grown by a similar percentage. It's almost a reverse linear relationship, right? As the mainstream media declines, these alternative outlets for news and conversation about news is growing. And so when he said that, I was interested. So we went to our dashboard. This is for YouTube only. We have grown, it says there, by 44% this year in views.
So this is the numbers from today.
These are Redacted's numbers, 47% more from last year in watch time. So, I definitely want to thank our viewers for this, but I think that it's also indicative that alternative media is replacing mainstream media. I can't say enough. Thank you so much for coming here and participating with us. We know that this show is for our viewers. We take it responsibly. We want to be responsible. We take it seriously. We try really hard to be studied up, to be good stewards of this show for you. So thank you for being here. We couldn't do it without you. And I'm thrilled to see these numbers again in inverse relationship.
Yeah, and thank you. Really, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for an amazing year and supporting independent journalism and the journalists that we have on here who, are not working for billionaire corporations. Almost every journalist we have on here is independent. And
several of them have lost their channels, lost some of their livelihood.
Their channels have been shut down and banned and censored. So it's an uphill battle. So we asked you earlier, when you watch us on YouTube, not Rumble. Rumble doesn't do this. Rumble is a free speech platform, and we love Rumble. But YouTube, of course, is Google and so forth. When you watch one of our videos, you watch us live, what comes up next? If you have the autoplay feature turned on, what plays next? And almost so many of you said CNN videos play next, MSNBC videos play next, Forbes videos play next, Bloomberg videos play next. They don't they don't show another one of our videos, or they don't show, I don't know, somebody else maybe in our sphere. They don't, maybe they show a Tucker video. No, they don't do that. They show CNN, MSNBC, Forbes, and Bloomberg.
If it's on auto roll.
Now, someone in our chat just said, I don't see CNN anymore and MSNBC anymore because I always thumbs down them when they pop up, so they don't serve them up to me anymore. So please, you could give a like for us, and then if you see like a CNN video pop up.
Well, don't say that. Do what you legitimately want to do. But
yeah, that's right. Interact with it however you like.
Right.
You can give it the middle finger if you'd like. You can give us the middle finger if you like. You can do whatever you want. If there was a middle finger option, I would encourage you all to give us the middle finger. I'd be fine with that. I have thick skin. Go ahead, David. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I personally try to not get that put in my news feed. I swipe left as soon as they come on, but they still show me that. However, it's perfect on other channels. If I watch content, it generally leads me right to what I want next. But no matter what I've done, I can't get them to stop sending me CNN and MSNBC and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's a counter narrative.
It's crazy. It's like they're purposefully serving it up. They're purposefully serving it up just so that our audience can, we want to have counter programming so that that you only get liberal news or liberal media that we're trying to serve to you.
Right.
It's crazy.
Well, tell us what you think of these numbers, why you maybe trust or mistrust mainstream media. For me, it has been mostly just a journey of researching for this show. Because I bought a lot of bullshit from the mainstream media until I sat down here and thought, well, I better be really studied if I'm going to, host this show with Clayton. And then I was like, they're lying. They're lying to us. And the more you study, the more you realize that they're either lazy, incompetent, or liars.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what Tucker says, right? Tucker was all in on the Iraq war. He bought that hook, line, and sinker. He said it was one of the greatest mistakes of his life. And he's like, I'll never stop apologizing for it. You learn about it, you make mistakes, you become aware, and you try to change, you try to improve. I think we all try to do that. We're never going to get things perfect. We try every day, though, to do our damnedest to get things that the mainstream media is ignoring and the propaganda that the mainstream media is spinning. We try to navigate through it. So I think it's...
And don't you think that's kind of the difference between us and somebody that's in the mainstream media? Because they're not down the rabbit holes and down into the trenches like we are on a daily basis looking for these stories, because we have to dig for our stories because they're hard to find on the mainstream.
Because we have no producers.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're sitting there, they're just getting fed whatever from whatever. So maybe that changes their worldview. And some of them actually do believe the stuff that they're spitting out.
Yeah. And a lot of times when I worked for the mainstream media, if I was interviewing an author, I would read the book and the author would always say, oh, you read the book. Most of the other interviewers don't, right?
They don't read the books.
Or there many times I've been on panels with other people at, my other broadcast jobs. And I would say, well, this book says this. No one else, they just don't seem to be studying because, you're at the top echelon of your game. Most of it is fed to you.
They're given their handed talking points.
They just don't study. So
that's a funny story.
They lack curiosity.
A year.
Yeah.
I remember one time I had an author on Fox News because I used to anchor the news on Fox News. I did a morning show called Fox and Friends. And we used to have authors on from time to time, and I was, history buff. And so I remember one time we had an author on from Abraham Lincoln. He wrote a biography of Abraham Lincoln. And remember, I read the book and then I did the interview with him and I was pulling out things from the book and engaging with him.
That always shocks them.
Yeah. And he, afterwards, he sent a note to my bosses.
Yeah.
And it was like, can I do another interview with him? He read the book and he knew everything. And I was like, Don't people read the book? It seems like you're interviewing an author about the book. How do you not read the book?
They don't.
What kind of, I don't know.
Readers are leaders, like I tell my kids. Okay. Well, we pledge to you to continue to work really hard, study really hard, be worthy of you. We are so thankful that you're here.
We don't take you for granted, honestly. I mean, every day we work our asses off for you guys, and we really, really try hard. And if we let you down, we're sorry about that. We will try harder the next day. That's our goal. So
and we'll let
people
you
asking
know.
in the chat here, when are you going to have on RFK Jr.? I actually just texted him today and asked him to come on. Waiting to get back from him on that. So we'll see about RFK Jr. coming on the show here. We've been trying to line that up. We'll probably during the holidays. President Trump. Someone just asked, when will President Trump be on the show? We're working on that as well. We've got a lot of things lined up right now on the Julian Assange front and everything. So we are we are not sleeping, and we will continue to do as much work as we can for you guys. So we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.